Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Rest, for bringing this. You know, I think this is a fight worth fighting. I think tax policy is about values. I've talked about that in our previous tax bills. We are deciding how we can get the revenue that we need to provide core services as a government for all the people that we represent in Minnesota. And so, you know, when we look at our tax policy, we need to make sure that it's fair, that it's equitable, but we also need to consider the things that are harming us. When we look at tobacco, when we look at alcohol, when we look at gambling, when we look at cannabis now in Minnesota, we have decided as a state, and I would argue as a nation, that these things, while yes, addicting, yes, sometimes enjoyable in moderation, should have taxes because they do negatively impact us. I also represent the Iron Range where there is mining. So if you want to bring this to a real place, as Senator Putnam talked about, when we mine minerals from the earth, we put additional taxes on it because it is taking something from us. And we are saying, when you mine from us, we are going to tax that so that we can then provide core services to the communities where that mining takes place. I would argue that social media companies are a modern mining of the information that we all hold dear for ourselves. Now, yes, we may benefit from those social media companies. We may enjoy the connections that they provide, but they also are addicting our children. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I am terrified of the future that the social media companies are creating for my children and for my family. So let's make sure that if they're going to be providing the things that they're providing, that they're also making sure that they provide us the revenue we need to fund things like education, to fund things like nursing homes. Those are the decisions that are in front of us as a tax committee and as a legislature. How are we providing for the core services that matter to people while making sure that those that are making the wealth off of the backs of children are paying their fair share? These are leeches on our society, leeches that we have come to accept, but they are leeches nonetheless. So there is no reason that we shouldn't, as Minnesotans, decide to fight the fight, take the legal recourse, and try to tax these people who are benefiting most from us. We can't let America become an oligarchy. We are not Russia. But look at what is happening in our country with these social media companies. Consider the fact that the top 0.1%, not the top 10%, not the top 1%, the top 0.1% own more wealth than the bottom 90%. That is wrong. That is oligarchy, folks. America is currently an oligarchy. 50% of Americans own 2% of the wealth in America, 50%. We can make decisions that change the trajectory of wealth in America and in Minnesota. We can lead the nation and say, this is not right. You may have social media headquarters in California and Texas and Washington, D.C. You may have your mansions outside of the centers of power at the White House. You may be in the White House cutting services like Medicaid and Social Security. But we're going to damn well make sure that we are taxing you if you're going to be doing those things. This is the decision before us. I represent some of the most rural and poorest communities in our state. These folks don't have social media headquarters providing the jobs that they need. They have mining, and we tax it. Let's tax social media companies too, so that we can provide the services that are in front of us. Tax policy is about values. Minnesota can lead the way on values for this country. Minnesota has already shown over the last 2 years that we can lead a new vision that is in stark contrast to what's happening nationally in our country. And Madam Chair, I couldn't be more pleased that you are bringing this policy forward because I think it's the right fight. This is the big tobacco fight of our generation, and we can fight it and we can win it here in Minnesota. Thank you.